I'm 24 years old, and I never thought I'd be the one writing something like this. But after what's happened over the past month, I can't keep this to myself anymore. My sister-in-law is missing. Just gone. And the worst part? My brother seems way too calm about it. It started 3 weeks ago. I was crashing at my older brother Matt's house while my apartment was being fumigated. Matt's 31, married to Claire, and they've been together for 6 years. Everyone loved Claire. She was bubbly, artsy, the kind of person who made even the most boring errands feel like an adventure. She was the glue that held every gathering together, always making people laugh, always remembering birthdays. So when I realized I hadn't seen or heard her for 2 days straight, I got this weird pit in my stomach. Matt told me Claire had gone to visit her cousin in Vermont for a mental health break. He said she needed time away from everything. That didn't sound like her at all. Claire never did spontaneous trips without telling someone. She was close with her mom, and I found out even she didn't know anything about this trip. When I asked Matt which cousin she went to see, he just shrugged and said he didn't catch the name. That's when alarm bells started ringing in my head. He claimed she left in the middle of the night, took an Uber, and didn't want to say goodbye because she was too emotional. Supposedly, she needed to be alone. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But every time I brought her up, Matt would either change the subject or get defensive. And then I started noticing things. Her car was still in the garage. Her purse was in the hall closet. Her makeup, laptop, and phone charger, all still in the house. Who leaves without those things? When I pointed this out to Matt, he brushed it off like it was nothing. Said she'd probably buy new stuff. That was when I decided to start writing everything down. After I noticed her purse and charger still in the house, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started snooping. Not because I wanted to stir drama, but because something just didn't sit right with me. I waited until Matt left for work the next morning. He'd recently picked up a job doing security for a warehouse, night shifts, long hours, and lots of time for me to look around. I started with Claire's side of the closet. Everything was still there. Her shoes, her favorite winter coat, even the pair of earrings she wore almost every day. Nothing was missing. So I checked the bathroom. Her toothbrush was still there, dry. Makeup untouched. Her skincare stuff still neatly lined up like always. She'd been gone for 3 days at that point, and nothing looked like it had been touched since. I went back to the guest room where I'd been sleeping and just sat on the bed, thinking. Either Matt was lying, or something happened. Something bad. I hated even thinking that, but I couldn't ignore how my gut kept twisting tighter every time I tried to talk myself out of it. Then something really weird happened. Later that night, Matt came home from work like usual. Tired, quiet. I was sitting on the couch watching TV when he walked in holding a bouquet of grocery store roses. I figured they were for Claire. Which made no sense. She wasn't even here. But he walked straight to the kitchen, opened the trash, and dropped the whole bouquet in. No explanation. Didn't say a word. Just walked out and went to take a shower. It gave me chills. I can't explain why, but it felt performative. Like he bought them to pretend he cared. Like he wanted someone to see him make the gesture, just to throw it away when no one was looking. Except I was looking. That was the first night I started locking the door to the guest room. I didn't feel safe anymore. I couldn't sleep that night. Every creak in the hallway made me jump. My mind kept racing back to the flowers in the trash, to the way Matt looked right through me when I asked where Claire went. So the next morning, I did something I'm not exactly proud of. While Matt was still asleep, I went into his office. The door was locked, but I'd seen him hide the spare key under the couch months ago. I knew the password to his computer too. It was Claire's birthday. Or at least, it used to be. When I tried logging in, it said the password had been changed. I nearly walked out, but something told me to keep digging. So I checked the desk drawers. Mostly just junk, receipts, pens, some old birthday cards. But in the bottom drawer, taped underneath, I found something that made my blood run cold. A flash drive. I pocketed it and snuck back to my room. Plugged it into my laptop and waited. There weren't a lot of files, just 2 folders. One was full of scanned documents, financial stuff, password lists, copies of Claire's ID, her credit card info, even her social security number. The other folder? Photos. But not normal photos. Screenshots. It took me a second to realize what I was looking at. They were from Claire's Instagram account, every single post she'd made over the last 2 years. Screenshotted. Archived. Some had been zoomed in on her face. Others had captions circled, dates highlighted. It was obsessive. It was like Matt was documenting her life, cataloging her every move. There were notes too. Weird ones. Stuff like posted 3 hours late, was she with someone, and wearing same shirt as on March 12th. Needs laundry check. Who writes that about their own wife? I felt sick. I closed the laptop and just sat there staring at the wall. I didn't know what I was looking at, but it wasn't normal. None of this was. I wanted to call someone. My mom. A friend. The police. But what would I say? Hey, my brother's acting weird and I found some screenshots? It didn't feel like enough. Not yet. So I decided to stay one more night. Just one. Long enough to find something I could actually show someone. And maybe, finally, figure out what happened to Claire. That night was different. The house was too quiet. No late-night snacking sounds, no footsteps in the hall. I lay awake listening for anything that would tell me Matt was just being weird, not dangerous. But instead, I heard something else. The back door creaked open around 2 a.m. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and crept over to the window. I couldn't see much, just the porch light barely lighting the yard. Then I saw Matt barefoot, wearing a hoodie, walking across the backyard with something in his hand. It looked like a flashlight and a shovel. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Just watched as he walked to the far end of the yard, behind the old shed. There's this huge tree back there, and it's where Claire used to hang her wind chimes. I remember helping her set them up last summer. He stayed out there for maybe 20 minutes. I couldn't see what he was doing, not clearly, but I heard the sound. That dull, unmistakable scrape of metal hitting dirt. I stayed glued to the window until he came back inside. He looked around before shutting the door, like he was making sure no one saw. I backed away from the curtain before he could glance up. I didn't sleep at all after that. I kept telling myself I was being dramatic, letting paranoia get the best of me. Maybe he was just burying something innocent. Trash. A dead raccoon. Something explainable. But that didn't explain the flash drive. The fake story. The missing wife. The next morning, Matt acted like everything was totally normal. Made coffee. Watched the news. Even asked if I wanted to grab lunch later. I said no. I could barely look at him without feeling sick. After he left for work, I grabbed my phone and went straight to the shed. Behind it, the grass looked freshly disturbed. Like someone had moved it around and tried to pat it back into place. I started taking pictures. The dirt, the scuff marks on the shovel leaning against the shed, even the worn patch of ground under the tree. Then I stepped on something. It was small, metallic. I bent down and picked it up. A locket. It was Claire's. I knew because I helped her pick it out for their 3rd anniversary. She used to wear it all the time. I clicked it open. Inside was a tiny photo of her and Matt, smiling on their wedding day. My hands were shaking. I pocketed the locket, took a few more pictures, and ran back inside. I didn't care anymore. I was going to the police. But I never made it. Because when I walked into the kitchen, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire's number. Just one word, stop. My whole body froze when I saw that text. Just one word, stop. Sent from Claire's number. I stared at the screen for so long the display went dark. My first instinct was to think it was a joke. Or a glitch. But then my mind started racing. What if Claire was alive? What if she was trying to reach out in secret? Or, what if Matt had her phone? That thought hit me like ice water. I checked the timestamp, 2 minutes ago. Which meant the phone had to be nearby. And I suddenly realized, I'd never actually seen Claire take her phone with her when she supposedly left. It wasn't in her purse. It wasn't in the charger. I'd just assumed. So I started tearing the house apart. Quietly, methodically, like I was defusing a bomb. I searched the laundry room, the guest bathroom, under the couch cushions, even behind the fridge. Nothing. Then I remembered something. Matt kept an old filing cabinet in the garage, locked and dusty. Said it was full of tax papers and warranty stuff. I grabbed the key from where I'd seen him hide it before, inside the lining of the toolbox, and opened it. The drawer jammed at first. Then gave way with a loud metallic clang. And there it was. Claire's phone. Stuffed under a stack of envelopes, screen cracked, but still powered on. I picked it up like it was a snake ready to strike. I didn't know if it had a passcode, but when I swiped up, it opened. No password. I felt a sharp jolt of hope. Like maybe this was it. Maybe the answers were in there. I went to her messages. The last few texts were from me. Days ago. All unread. And then I checked the sent messages. None. No text saying stop. Nothing recent at all. In fact, it looked like the phone hadn't been used in almost a week. That message hadn't come from Claire's phone. Which meant whoever sent it was using her number through something else, like a spoofing app, or worse, had access to her account from another device. Someone wanted me to back off. Someone who knew I was getting close. And the only person who could possibly know all that? Matt. I put the phone back exactly how I found it. Same drawer, same angle, everything. I didn't even want fingerprints on it. At this point, I was terrified of what I was finding, and even more scared of what I wasn't. I couldn't stay there anymore, not without losing my mind. I packed a bag, texted Matt that I was going to stay with a friend for the weekend, and left before he got off work. I didn't tell him which friend. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I drove 2 towns over and got a cheap motel room with cash. No trail. I wanted to feel safe enough to breathe. That night, I went through every single photo I'd taken of the yard, the locket, the flash drive contents. I made a backup folder, then uploaded everything to a cloud account only I had access to. Then I made a second copy and scheduled an email to myself with all the files, just in case something happened to my phone. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being cautious. Then, something strange happened. At around midnight, I got a notification. Claire's Instagram had just posted a story. I almost dropped the phone. Her profile had been completely silent for nearly 2 weeks. No posts. No comments. But now, suddenly, at the exact moment I'd gone dark, it came back to life. The story was a blurry photo of what looked like a mountain trail. No caption. Just a generic location tag, Vermont hikes. I stared at it for a long time. Something felt off. Claire always captioned her stories. She'd always put filters on, add the little gifs and music stickers. This was just cold. Empty. Like someone trying too hard to be casual. But here's what really freaked me out. I reverse image searched the photo. It took about 3 minutes. It wasn't new. It was a stock image. Used in 3 different travel blogs over the past year. Whoever posted it wasn't just pretending Claire was alive. They were actively creating a trail. A fake one. Someone wanted people to believe she'd just taken off and gone hiking. Someone wanted to make it look like she was alive and well. And that's when I knew for sure. Whatever happened to Claire, it didn't end with her leaving. It started with it. I couldn't sleep at all after that fake Instagram story. I kept replaying it over and over in my mind, how perfectly placed it was. Just when I'd left the house. Just when I started digging deeper. Matt knew. He had to know I was onto something. And now he was trying to cover his tracks. I spent the next morning calling every hiking lodge and hotel in Vermont I could find, pretending to be Claire's sister. I described her in detail. Asked if anyone had checked in under her name. Nothing. No one matching her name, her credit card, even her car had shown up. It was like she'd never been there. Because she hadn't. I was about to give up when I remembered something. Claire's best friend, Danny, had moved to Oregon last year, but they used to talk every single day. She would have been the first person Claire told if she needed to get away. So I called her. She picked up right away, and the moment I said Claire's name, her voice cracked. I hadn't even told her she was missing. She already knew something was wrong. She told me Claire hadn't texted her in over 10 days. Not a word. She'd messaged her 5 times, no response. Thought maybe she was just ghosting her or needed space. But now, hearing me say she disappeared, I could hear the panic build in her voice. And then she said something that made my heart drop. The last time they talked, Claire told her she was scared. Scared of Matt. I asked why, but Danny didn't know much. Claire hadn't gone into details. Just said things were getting bad, that he'd been acting strange, controlling, constantly asking where she was and who she was texting. Apparently, he'd even checked her GPS history on her phone once and confronted her about stopping for coffee too long. That didn't sound like the Matt I knew. But then again, maybe I never really knew Matt at all. Danny swore she'd message every mutual friend they had and ask if anyone had heard from Claire. I thanked her, and we promised to keep each other in the loop. I was about to hang up when she hesitated, and told me one last thing. Claire had started keeping a secret notebook. Danny didn't know what was in it, just that Claire said she needed proof. That if anything happened to her, someone had to find it. I had never seen a notebook at the house. But I had a pretty good idea where Matt might have hidden it if he found it first, and I was going back in. I waited until Sunday evening to make my move. I knew Matt's schedule. He always did his Sunday gym and grocery routine. Gone for about 2 hours, minimum. That gave me one chance to get in and out without being noticed. I parked down the street and walked the rest of the way to avoid triggering the driveway camera. The spare key was still taped behind the gutter, just where it had always been. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Everything looked the same. Too much the same. The house had this eerie stillness, like it was trying to keep secrets. I didn't waste time. I headed straight to the bedroom. Claire's side of the nightstand was empty, but Matt's was cluttered, receipts, chargers, random junk. I started pulling open drawers, checking for anything unusual. Nothing. Then I remembered something. Last Christmas, Claire joked about how Matt had this dumb habit of stashing things in the laundry basket when guests came over to make the house look cleaner. I walked over to the closet, lifted the lid of the tall wicker basket, and there it was. A notebook. Black leather cover, no markings. I opened it, heart pounding. And that's when I realized Claire had known something bad was coming. The first few pages were entries, handwritten, dated, and deliberate. She talked about how Matt had changed over the past year. How he'd started tracking her location. Getting upset when she spent time with friends. How he accused her of cheating more than once, even though she hadn't. Then it escalated. She wrote about waking up to him standing over her at night. Not speaking. Just watching. She said he'd deny it the next morning like nothing had happened. She started locking the bedroom door when he was home. Started leaving her phone at work because she suspected he was reading her messages. Then, in the final pages, it got worse. She wrote that she found her car keys moved from the drawer she always kept them in. That once, she'd gotten in the car and smelled something sweet, like chemicals. She said she thought Matt might have been planning something. Poison, maybe. She didn't know. But she was scared. The very last line in the notebook made my skin crawl. If this ends up in someone else's hands, I didn't leave. He did something. That was it. I had proof. I shoved the notebook into my bag, took a few pictures of the room for context, and headed for the door. And that's when I saw Matt's truck pulling into the driveway. I didn't even have time to think, just react. I ran straight to the back of the house, unlocked the sliding door, and slipped out as quietly as I could. I cut through the yard, sprinted through the trees behind the fence, and didn't stop until I was 3 streets away, crouched behind a recycling bin, completely out of breath. My heart was racing, hands still clutched around the bag with Claire's notebook inside. I felt like I'd just robbed a bank. But it wasn't guilt I felt, it was fear. Not of getting caught. Of what Matt might do if he knew what I had. I made it back to my motel and locked every deadbolt. I sat there for 10 minutes, just staring at the door. And then, I sent everything. Scans of the notebook. The flash drive contents. Photos from the backyard. I sent them to Danny, to Claire's mom, to a trusted coworker, even to myself from a burner email I made that night. I wanted to make sure someone had it if I disappeared too. Then I called the police. I didn't expect much at first. Missing person. No clear signs of foul play. But when I mentioned the notebook and offered to bring it in, the tone shifted. They told me to come in the next morning. That they'd assigned someone to take a full statement. That's when I knew this was finally becoming real. But the real shock came hours later, right as I was falling asleep. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This one wasn't from Claire's number. It was from an unknown sender. No name. Just a message. You think you're helping, but you don't know the whole story. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I was scared. Because I was starting to wonder, what if they were right? I barely slept. That text kept repeating in my head like a warning wrapped in a threat. You think you're helping, but you don't know the whole story. I showed up at the police station as soon as they opened. Told them everything. Showed them the notebook, the pictures, the flash drive, the locket. They took it seriously, way more seriously than I expected. They said they'd launch a formal missing person investigation immediately and dispatched officers to the house that afternoon. But just a few hours later, I got the call. Claire had been found. Alive. She was at a women's shelter 3 towns over. Had checked in under a different name almost 2 weeks ago. Apparently, someone there saw her photo on the missing persons report the police circulated after I came in. That's how they found her. And when I say I was relieved, I mean it gutted me. I sobbed in the parking lot of the police station for 20 solid minutes. But that wasn't the end. The detective called me in later that evening. Said Claire didn't want to talk to me, not yet, but she had given a full statement. And what she said? It turned everything upside down. Claire wasn't running from Matt. She was hiding from both of us. Because the truth was, we were both being manipulated. Matt had been controlling. Jealous. Obsessive. All of that was real. But the thing that pushed Claire over the edge, the reason she disappeared without a word, was me. She had found the flash drive months ago. I hadn't discovered it, she had. And when she saw what was on it, she didn't confront Matt. She started planning to leave. Quietly. Safely. She told Danny about her plan to vanish, and Danny helped cover for her. So why did Danny act like she didn't know anything when I called her? Because she was trying to protect Claire's plan. But somewhere along the way, Matt must have found out. Or at least suspected. That's when he started faking the story, sending texts from Claire's number, making fake social media posts, even digging in the backyard to scare me. He wanted to throw me off. But not for the reason I thought. Matt was trying to make me think he'd done something to her. Because if I believed Claire was dead or missing, I'd panic. I'd investigate. I'd send what I found to the police. And once the police got involved, Matt would have the perfect excuse to play the victim. He'd blame it all on me. Frame me for harassment. For planting evidence. Maybe even for harming Claire. He never expected they'd actually find her. And here's the kicker, Claire said the last straw wasn't Matt. It was when she realized I was sneaking around the house, photographing her things, going through their life like a detective in some cheap thriller. She was scared of both of us. Said we were two different kinds of control in the same nightmare. I didn't know what to say when the detective told me that. I still don't. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I really thought I was helping. But somewhere along the line, it stopped being about Claire and started being about me needing to solve something. Needing to matter in the middle of someone else's tragedy. I haven't heard from her since. Danny messaged me once just to say Claire's safe and she wants space. Matt was arrested for stalking and unlawful surveillance. He'll probably face charges for identity manipulation too. And me? I left the motel. Moved back into my apartment. Quiet now. Quiet in a way that feels like a punishment. I kept the notebook. Not because I want to hold on to the past, but because I need to remember what happens when you try to rescue someone who doesn't want saving. Sometimes, the worst villains don't wear masks. They wear concern. And they call it love.